Top crypto gems about to go parabolic. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name is Neil, where we keep technical analysis short and sweet. And starting with Bitcoin, we are seeing that what I had pasted here, as we talked about in the previous videos, is kind of what we're looking at. We saw this massive drop, which would be this candle right here, a little bit of consolidation before the pop. So with that being said, we're going to move on over to BNT. BNT, I've been talking about it for months now. We're forming out this inverse head and shoulders, and what I am looking at on this is this upward trend line starting from where we had our entry down here right around 36 cents, currently at 80 cents. We had that major push up, started forming a downward channel. We broke out of that downward channel, and we see that once that happened, we had that push back up over this upward trend line. Now we tested it as support, which is what we were expecting to see. It was holding above the CM guppy, and we were starting to push back up. In the previous video, I talked about when we hit this low, testing off the 200 EMA, we were most likely to be pushing back up towards this dotted red line, which obviously just happened these past couple of days. And if you have not entered BNT, BNT is actually a very good entry at this moment. As we were about to break out into the overbought area, but we see that last time that this had happened, we had that major push up. And just this push up, looking at the RSI, keeping that in mind, we had about a 65% increase before that decrease. In the bigger picture, we are looking at BNT right here. I believe its high is actually all the way up here at $20. We're going to do the Fibonacci retracement from about $10 to here. 618 is above this red line, which is around $5 to $6 is where we can expect the next push up for BNT. It happens very quickly. As you can see back here, when we had this push, we shot all the way up to around $1.95. Obviously, we may get a little bit of rejection, a little bit of consolidation within this area. However, keeping in mind the 618 is all the way up here at $5. For an 80-cent investment, that is not a bad risk to reward ratio. It's filling out the inverse head and shoulders. We just need a little bit more volume. We held support off this black upward trend line, and we are starting to see a push up whenever Bitcoin will start taking off. Moving on over to DNT, had a major pump and dump, and what you want to keep in mind is this volume down here. We are back in the 50 on the RSI, and it's forming this W. We need to cross over this yellow before we start seeing some major increase in DNT. However, we are holding a little bit of support on this black downward trend line, as we see that once it crossed over this line, we had our entry, and then we got some rejection off that 200 EMA, this blue line right here coming in on the daily. We just need to break up over that 200 EMA, which is most likely around the 0.03 cent area. And then once it closes and holds, we can expect to push back up to 0.05 and beyond. And like I've talked about in the previous videos, my prediction from the previous pump was around the 5 cents. However, we managed to go way above that, all the way up to around 19 cents. Currently at not even 3 cents, pushing to 19 cents is not a bad ROI. May not be the best investment. Do not get a big bag of DNT. I'd prefer BNT over DNT. None of this is financial advice. But just keep DNT in mind, as it is at an absolute low. We mainly just need to see it hold support off this black upward trend line and close over that 200 EMA before the continuation upwards. Dogecoin, moving on to Doge. You have the opportunity still to get in. I recommended once we closed above the 20 cent area, we were going to be pushing up to around 24. Got a little rejection with this wick off on the daily, and then pushed up towards the 28 cents. We tried holding above the 24.39, which did not work. We tested a little bit lower, but it is starting to build support. What you need to see for that to be building support, this is an upward trend line, and then we draw another trend line from this next point right here. So we are trying to hold this trend, and if it can get support off this trend line, we're going to start pushing back up towards 29, maybe test this trend line once more before pushing up once again. As when you look at the bigger picture for Doge, just a massive W starting to form. That's what you want to see for the win. It is very likely that Dogecoin is going to start pushing back up towards the 48 cents here with Bitcoin starting to push up. Keep in mind the volume. Looking at the volume, you see that it is clearly picking up right here. We do have a little decrease in the volume, but that is because it is trying to sell off. Nobody is selling. Everybody will start buying. We are holding above the CM guppy as well, right at that mid mark where the green meets the blue. Just in my chart, you guys can adjust your charts as well to try and make it look similar if you are following along. My patterns and my predictions, my strategy in general seems to work very well for me. Hopefully it works very well for you. And if you've been in following my channel and what we've been doing, you can clearly see that we have made exponential gains just with my strategy. And then, you can always promote, oh, we got one-on-one trading and I got a signal channel and all this shit. I try not to push that on you guys. If you guys want to join the signal channel or the trading one-on-one, I can go through a bunch of stuff with you. Right now, this is my only job. And if you guys promote it, I'll promote you guys. I will try and get you the best absolute entries I can. And moving on over to render, we had our sell-off. As we saw, it was starting to decrease. It was right actually at this 200 EMA. I had that pushed down, and we invested into other coins such as Quant, which we'll get into later. But render, once it breaks over this 200 EMA, we can expect the next stop to be around the 550, and then 618 retracement is around 820. Render is very good for its utility case and being able to mine cryptocurrencies. It's always going to be a thing in the future. So keep render in mind. There are other coins that can get you better ROI for this next bull run, even meme coins, but we'll come around to render once again in another video. I'm going to have to separate this into multiple videos so we can get better detail on actually what everything is doing. GRT, we had our entry once we held support off this black trend line down here, and we had that nice push up. We were looking for re-entering once we got above the 200 EMA. It also got rejection, but it is trying to push back up over this 10 cent and then ultimately break and hold over this 200 EMA, this blue downward line. Once we close above that, like I've been saying, we can expect to push up towards this black downward trend line, which is the resistance. We may get a little bit of consolidation. And then once we break over that 20 cent mark, we may test this once again. So don't think it's going to continue up. It is possible that it can continue upwards around the 28 cent mark before coming down, testing this as support, and then breaking free. But graph definitely has a very, very long way to go, as well as some of these other cryptocurrencies we've been looking at. 350, I believe, is its all-time high. We are currently at 11 cents. Say, oh, Neil, it's only 350. Bitcoin's at 100,000. We're not looking at the price of the coin. We're looking at the ROI and what the potential gains we can be making from it. So if Bitcoin goes to 200,000, that's a 50% increase. If this goes up to 66 cents, that's 463% increase, which is kind of why we look at these smaller coins as they have a bigger potential for ROI. I'm actually going to bring in Toshi on this one. I want to look at H-bar on the other ones. But looking at Toshi, it is a meme coin. Keep that in mind. But we are trying to build a little bit of support off this trend line here. First trend line being this. We could make it a little bit steeper, not exactly necessary with the first trend line, but you could see something like this. If we can hold support off this trend line, we can start pushing up. We need to break above this trend line, which is previous from down here. So we see that we started at this point. We got a little bit of support near this trend line, a little bit of support again, and then once we broke that, we had that crash. So if we can break this black trend line, I will make it a different color so you can see what I'm talking about. We'll do yellow. If we can break above this, we have the fair value gap being here around the 0.0007, and then that is actually right around the 618 on this Fibonacci retracement. The next push up, 0.0008. And then beyond that, when we're looking at the bigger picture, the all-time high is way up here at 0.002. May not seem like astronomical gains because it's such a tiny amount of money for the coin, but pushing back up to that all-time high is around 264%. This is Coinbase's meme coin, and Coinbase is partnering with a lot of people, so it's not a bad bet if you want to get into a meme coin. It is starting to build up. It's forming an inverse head and shoulders, and it's testing this neckline. And as we see, it tested the neckline and it's starting to build a little bit of support. So we can expect a further push up to finish out this high. And then once it closes right around the 0.0009, potentially 0.001, we can expect the 618 being around 0.0015 for the retracement. That's it for this video. I will do Quant, XRP, and all the other important ones on another one. So keep that in mind. Good luck. Have fun with it. All references and links below. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one.